Incoming!
How's it going, everybody? Rob here, back with another video. And, yeah, I had to push this one. I mean, right after, I'm going to say this. Right after we completed a live stream of Danganronpa, which I asked you guys to go, please check that out. As well as a lot of the other content that we've been pushing. I had to try to do this as fresh as I could. I mean, as I'm recording this, this is, I want to say it's about 11:27 p.m. So about 30 minutes till midnight. And I had to talk about this. So that way, at the very least, I could push it the next day. So this movie, this particular movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. First off, I gotta reread the bit from IGN, like the snippet, that it's for this image that I've seen circulate for IGN, giving this movie a 7. I've read it on TikTok, but I'll read it again. Wade and Logan's profanity-laced adventure forces the MCU further out of its comfort zone than it's been in years. Even though old and increasingly frustrating issues like forgettable villains and barely their plot show that breaking the fourth wall isn't always enough to solve a movie's foundational problems.
You serious?
Okay, so I kind of feel like reading something like this, I beg to question if IGN, and this is always something that I have to question. If it sounds like I'm going to shit on IGN, I have to. Because time and time again, I look at a review from them, and I have to ask, are they actually looking at the content that they are supposed to be reviewing? That is my biggest question every time I see something from IGN. Because looking at the film, there is more than what they classify as the forgettable villain. Which, by the way, I should point out that the villain itself, I did not expect. And it's a character that I did have to do research on, but I was very curious about. Because initially, who I thought it was going to be was completely different. Though, at the same time, I beg the question if it was the choice that they were going to go to before. But that's beside the point. But yeah, talking about a forgettable villain and barely their plot. Dude, no, I don't think that these people have actually, and if this was the case, and I'm going to say this too, I know I sound like I'm spending too much time griping on IGN, but to say all that, what I just read, and to immediately give it a 7, you'd think that their supposed rating would be lower. But apparently not. And again, it begs the question if they actually watched the damn movie. So, yeah. Deadpool, Wolverine. And I'm just going to go on and say it. I know I sound like I'm being generous and I'm kind of overhyping it, but I don't fucking care. I enjoyed this movie. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I absolutely enjoyed it. And honestly, in terms of something that a lot of people wanted, in terms of, you know, a Logan and Deadpool like face off and you team up, it actually fucking works. Especially with recent times where Fox has been bought off by Disney. A lot of films that have been created by Fox, a lot of Marvel movies, a lot of movies from the past that are connected to X-Men, Wolverine, and so on, is now and could be part of the MCU going further. It's now connected. Everything that we've seen so far, especially with the shows that Disney has created, are starting to all come together. Now, I should point out too that a couple of the trailers that I saw with because I did watch this with my wife. We saw a trailer for the new Alien movie, which looks really good. I'm gonna say the trailer itself, it looks damn good. We saw the new Captain America trailer, which again also looks really good. And we got teased with Red Hulk, which I think from what I've heard, it's supposed to be Harrison Ford playing as Red Hulk. So that should be interesting. Only time will tell to see if it's actually good. But all in all, oh, and by the way, when we went to go see the movie, I went and got one of the popcorn buckets. I got this nice little popcorn bucket just to show you guys all the sides of it. So there we go. So yeah, Deadpool. Directed by Sean Levy, written by Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Warnick, starring Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Emma Corrin, and many others. Actually, and I say many others, and that's kind of an understatement, because by God, we have a lot of characters that people have forgotten about in this movie. Actually, characters that didn't even get fucking movies yet. And I should point out, like, just to kind of summarize a little bit of the movie, you have a Deadpool who is, trying to be better. He wants to join the Avengers. Thanks to him having the time machine from Cable, he proceeds to try to mess with the timeline, save his girl, do all this and that. Goes back in time to try to get an interview to join the Avengers. By the way, he's interviewed by John Furia. I think that's how you say his name. If I did say it right, I'm sorry. John Furia as Happy, Happy Hogan. He comes back, which is pretty great. Only for a quick cameo. It's sad, but yeah, he only came back for a quick cameo. And this kind of innocent kind of upsets Wade Wilson as Deadpool, and kind of doesn't sit well with him, and he ends up going for a regular 9 to 5. Till eventually he's approached by the TVA and is told that he's given the opportunity, he could be given the opportunity to join the Avengers. And at first he's like, okay, yeah, no, let's do this. But he ends up finding out that by going to the universe with the Avengers, he then would have to sacrifice his own universe. And unfortunately, because of a canon character, that universe is slowly decaying. Now, which canon character died, by the way? And by the way, spoilers for everybody. Spoilers for everybody. Because, and which, by the way, I should have said, I'm going to say this. Future me, make a spoilers video clip, so that way people know that, hey, there's going to be spoilers in this. Now, what was the canon character? Who was the one that basically died and unfortunately now is causing the decay of Deadpool's universe? None other than Logan. And I'm talking about old Logan from the movie Logan, the one we've been following thus far, who died in his own movie. That Logan. So, yeah, he ends up becoming conflicted. of either to try to save his universe or if he wants to still become an Avenger. That hero part of him kind of starts to speak to him, and he decides to, in his own way, save his universe. How? By basically grabbing another a Logan from another universe. Actually, no, sorry. First, he goes to find old Logan, who is still dead. And by the way, the movie is basically starts with him finding the remains of the Logan that we knew, and eventually fighting the TVA with his desecrated adamantium remains, while listening to NSYNC. I'm just gonna say this. Out of all of the intros, this one was the best. Not for its gratuity, not for its over-the-topness, but the fact that, again, just the most random song, a song from NSYNC, is playing while he's basically just gorging and decapitating these poor TVA soldiers with basically the metallic remains of Logan, taking ribs out, throwing them at people, taking one of his freaking leg bones and smashing a dude's dick. It was interesting, especially towards the end, where he basically takes Wolverine's own claws and decides to use them. That was cool. But yeah. So when that fails, he ends up trying to go to other universes to find a Logan. Now, something really funny is the one thing that that IGN fails to understand is that now that Deadpool is in the Marvel Universe, and especially with not just with like breaking fourth wall jokes, but sometimes there's a lot of cameos. There's a lot of things that are in the background put in. And thankfully that now they have Deadpool in the MCU, part of this whole thing, dude, there is so much possibility, especially right now where they're doing all the multiverse stuff. There is so many possibilities that they could do with the movie, and they do it. First off, we get to see short, cartoon or comic accurate short Wolverine, Hugh Jackman as a shorty, and it is hilarious. We have the eye patch Wolverine, we have the crucified Wolverine, we have Old Man Wolverine, the other Old Man Wolverine. We have him, the moment where Wolverine fights the Hulk, which is a really funny scene because you only see him briefly, and Deadpool's like, well, isn't he like, weren't you fighting the Hulk? And he says something along the lines of, "Hi, I'm Marvel Jesus, you stupid," like something to that extent, and gets freaking wailed into a tree trunk. That was funny. And with all this cameo stuff, he finally gets to the Wolverine that we see for the movie, who is very drunk at a bar, sulking. So after a little bit of drinky, Wolverine is basically dragged back to the TVA, and we find out that this Wolverine is probably the worst one. And we're only given like context at the beginning that he's the worst one, but we slowly find out why. They get zapped into the void, where if you guys watch the Loki show, you know that is where like basically anything beyond the sacred timeline is dumped, and that is where things get even more interesting, where we see, first off, we have a great fight between Logan and Deadpool. It was a lot of fun to watch. And eventually we get this cameo from Chris Evans. Not as not as Captain America. He came back as the Human Torch for a brief moment, and I'll explain why. But eventually, we have more characters pop up. Mad Max style, by the way. Which they do make a reference to Furiosa after a quick fight between Wolverine and Sabretooth. And they end up getting captured, Deadpool and Wolverine, to be introduced to Cassandra Nova, who, by the way, again, this was a character that I had no idea at first. Initially, like seeing the trailers, my initial thoughts were she was a version of the Mage Supreme. You know, the mage that was the leader before Doctor Strange. But sure enough, I find out, like after doing a little bit of research, this is a character in the comics that was the twin sister of Charles Xavier. And her powers are probably far more intricate compared to her brothers. I would say it's almost the same extent as Jean. But probably even further than that. And after Deadpool kind of lying about Johnny basically shit-talking Cassandra, she proceeds to skin him alive. Like literally using her powers to rip his skin off his body. And Johnny basically turning into a puddle. They do manage to escape Cassandra and her crew, as well as Alioth, who is, again, from Loki, for those who have never watched the show, a creature that basically runs the void, destroying or basically extinguishing anything that was, again, against the sacred timeline. We do get introduced to another character by the name of Peggy, or also, you know, Dogpole, and Nice Deadpool, which apparently is a version of Ryan Reynolds' Wade Wilson, but he has his face, and as well as long hair. There's a reason for that, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But they managed to get help from Nice Pool, and he gives them a vehicle that towards the beginning, Deadpool originally was going to sell a family. Didn't pan out so well. So they do continue their journey. We get another fight between Deadpool and Logan. And this is more because of, at one point, Wade kind of promising Logan that he was going to help him fix his timeline. But unfortunately, Wolverine kind of doesn't start to not believe him, and then shit talks Wade. They proceed to get into a fight, and while they are unconscious, they're basically brought to the Borderlands, where they're introduced to a few characters that, again, have been kind of forgotten about for a long while. First off, Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner. That was a fun cameo. She was Elektra for both Daredevil and her own movie. And then the man himself, Wesley Snipes, reprising his role as Blade, which was a lot of fun to watch. And then let's not forget, and by the way, this is actually a fun one. Channing Tatum playing as Gambit. Now, from what I've heard, Gambit was supposed to get his own movie, but it got canceled. So it was kind of interesting to see Channing Tatum at least play Gambit here. So, also, another character that comes up. I believe it was Laura, which was X-23, or played by Daphne Keane, I believe. She was, again, X-23, who was the daughter of Logan. And at first, they're happy to help, but they don't want to get involved with anything involving Cassandra. But after some coaxing, thanks to Wade and his fast talking, they agree to help storm Cassandra's base and try to subdue her and basically use a helmet on her. Now, originally, and it's actually kind of funny that originally Wade has the idea to grab Magneto's helmet, but immediately they're like, yeah, no, it's gone, it's melted. Cassandra knew that was gonna work against her, so they find out that, hey, wait, the Juggernaut's helmet does the exact same thing, so why don't we grab that helmet? And that's what they do. They show up at Cassandra's base, fight ensues, while everybody is fighting, or at least the crew that's been in the void. Laura, Blade, Gambit, and Elektra are fighting the crew, which is basically mostly all the cast from the old X-Men and everything else. Wade and Logan go after Cassandra, and after Wade, Deadpool, getting his ass kicked, thrown to the side, Logan is left alone with Cassandra, where she tries to pick his brain, giving Deadpool, or Laura, the chance to give Deadpool the helmet after decapitating Juggernaut. And by the way, I should point out, this isn't the Juggernaut that we saw for the Deadpool 2. This is Juggernaut from X-Men 3. So that Juggernaut. But yeah, so they do end up getting the helmet. They put it on Cassandra, who at first can't use her powers because it's blocking her powers. And she gets shot by Pyro, who, by the way, in between having to deal with Cassandra, is working for the guy that promised Wade, to join the Avengers and stuff. By the way, his name is Mr. Paradox. So, fun. He eventually does get a few shots in, but thanks to Logan kind of, really thinking about, the people that he let down, which after, Cassandra kind of probing his brain, and after a conversation with Laura, we find out that, while everybody wanted Logan to become an X-Man, he didn't have the heart for it, and periodically would go out drinking. And one night, during one of his benders, all the X-Men, all the people in the mansion, everyone was killed. And the only thing that he has left to remind him of them was his suit, which is the suit that we see him wear throughout the film. So they, at this point, because of how he feels at this point, and kind of thinking about what Charles would have done, he tells Wade that no, we need to take the helmet off. And thanks to that, they do manage to get a way out of the void. And by the way, there's a quick mention of Doctor Strange, where Cassandra talks about how there was once a amateur magician that had a slink ring, and she uses that. Apparently the slink rings, the magical rings that open up portals, apparently those can open up doorways through the void. Apparently. So I thought that was kind of cool. we've never seen that happen, but then it kind of makes sense considering that towards the end of the last Spider-Man movie, Doctor Strange, who was trapped in the mirror dimension, was able to get out. So, or at least at the same time, freaking what's his name, Peter's buddy was trying to use it. So, in the end, it was pretty cool. So, Logan and Wade are able to escape. They meet up with Peter from the second movie, who, by the way, got him his job as selling cars. And they go to one of the outposts for the TVA, because it turns out that the TVA not only was posted in Deadpool's timeline, but they were all putting together a device that was going to prune Wade's reality out of existence. So they try to get over there, but unfortunately, Cassandra beats them to it and basically gets a hold of Mr. Paradox. And to make matters worse, and it's kind of hinted at towards the middle of the movie, we get introduced to the Deadpool Corps. Basically, any and all variants of Deadpool arrive to fight Wade and Logan. Also, we get Dogpool again, which, you know, that dog is really cute. Anyways, we get a really cool fight. A version of Like a Prayer is playing. Really nice. It ends with Peter showing up in his own Deadpool outfit, which I'm gonna say with him wearing it, it was kind of hilarious. And even going as far as like saying, hey, it doesn't fit him, he still wore it. So yeah, it turns out like every other Deadpool likes Peter. So while they're gathering around him, Logan and Deadpool go to try to stop the machine, only to find out that Cassandra has taken control, and she's in some sense trying to absorb or channel the energy from the machine to basically destroy or annihilate every universe. So what they end up doing is they find out a way to stop it. But the only problem is, at the bottom of the machine are two units. One for matter, one for antimatter. And they had to create a circuit between the two of them to basically mess up the machine. Unfortunately, it's kind of set up that whoever does it will die. So at first, we have the usual thing where one guy says they're going to sacrifice themselves. We get the situation where Deadpool initially, first it was Logan that was going to go inside. Deadpool tricks him, hits him over the head with a freaking the fire hydrant or fire extinguisher, tosses him back on the other side of the room, and proceeds to try to do it himself. Only for Logan to break back in and help him, with both of them completing the circuit to basically shut this thing down. Both realizing that this could be their last moments on Earth. So it ends with Cassandra getting blown up, defeated, Paradox almost getting away with what he did, but unfortunately Wade and Logan were still alive. Wade almost gets pruned, but thanks to Peter being there, he ends up saving Wade from going back into the void. And it ends with everybody kind of together and, you know, being a family, so to speak. All in all, you know what? I'm going to say this. Again, I love this movie. And I don't think we could just, especially with IGN, I don't think we could just chalk it up to, you know, its fourth wall breaks. I think what really does it well, what's really done well with this particular movie is the fact that there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of not just cameos, but also Easter eggs that you have to pay very close attention to. Like, for instance, going back, like, talking about Huey's office, or Happy's office. where we see the modern art version of Captain America's shield. We see the arc reactor, which, by the way, I have one like right behind me. We have the little toy helmet, the Iron Man helmet. There's so many things that, again, if you pay close attention, especially with Deadpool, I would say being a character where that's gonna, he's gonna make fourth wall jokes, but there's gonna be a lot of jokes involving, the Marvel Universe. And even cameos. I think that's what this movie gets right. Is the fact that, especially now that it is not only part of the MCU, that they're actually utilizing Deadpool in the MCU, but also the fact that it's now part or dealing with the multiversal stuff. There is a lot that they not only do with the character, but opportunity with the character. And I think it is well appreciated. Sure, some things are over the top, but you know what? That's the point of freaking Deadpool. Deadpool has always been the character who's been the mark of the mouth. He's the one who's the craziest. And, I mean, really, if you know his backstory, can you really blame him? A character who basically is diagnosed with cancer and has a healing factor that not only cures him, but, in a sense, continuously has the cancer grow inside him, only for his body to keep healing and regenerating the cancer. So, this movie, again, I think in terms of like, people like IGN, basically just kind of chalking it up to, a forgettable villain, or just fourth wall breaks. I'm gonna say this. For the villain, I didn't expect them. I was very curious about the villain. Because at first, my expectations were basically challenged. Because you see a certain character in the trailer and you assume it's somebody else. Or somebody, but it turns out to be somebody else. And in terms of fourth wall breaks, yeah, there's fourth wall breaks. But you gotta understand too is that there's also a variety of different little nuggets and lore and other things that we get to see in this movie. And thanks to everything coming together, and again, now that everything is under the Disney umbrella with Marvel, we can now utilize characters, or at least Marvel can utilize characters like Deadpool and Wolverine, and maybe down the line, the X-Men for that matter. So, to IGN, I think their review is shallow, to say the least. And honestly, it kind of makes me wonder if the writers, the people who made the review, who basically talked about this movie, actually watched the content that they themselves were supposed to review. So, and I will say this, and I know I've been griping on IGN, and I'm sure a lot of other, companies have done the same thing, but it makes me question if, certain individuals in the reviewing community, like IGN, Kotaku, many others, have actually taken an actual look at this movie and have reviewed it fairly. And not chalking it up to just, an unforgettable villain and barely any plot to the film. Because again, talking about a lot of spoilers, I discussed the plot. And in terms of like the characters' like motivations, it seems genuine. Although over the top, although crazy and nonsensical sometimes, our characters deal with the plot in their own way. And Deadpool himself has been, I would say, the craziest in terms of dealing with, situations in a very over-dramatized way. So, anyway, once again, my rating, I said it in the beginning, it's going to be a 10 out of 10. I absolutely enjoyed the film. I really, really liked it. In terms of this film, it brings Deadpool to the MCU, as well as Logan, which gives us possible situations involving the X-Men. It has a ton of cameos, a lot of Easter eggs, and you know what? It's just a damn good movie. And honestly, I'm gonna give it, in terms of like points, 2 of those points are going to that opening of the movie. Yeah, we thought the Guardians of the Galaxy freaking dance number was great. No, this, again, I don't listen to a lot of NSYNC, but that was great. Okay? That fight towards the beginning, and in between him dancing around, that's Deadpool. That's what we came to watch. That's what we paid money for. So, again, 10 out of 10. Enjoyed the movie. Hopefully you guys do too. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob Novakast signing off. Have a good one. Take care. And I'll see you guys next video.